Hello and welcome to another recorded training session for RPMS EHR. My name is Katie Johnson and I am the EHR Integrated Care Coordinator at the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. In this section, we will cover the triage tab. Time for my disclaimer. In all of these recordings, the database that I am using is a scrambled training database. It contains no real patient information. The data may look real, but it is not. Hello, today we are going to talk about the triage tab. Now, nursing spends a lot of time on this tab, as well as other medical assistants and anybody helping out with the preparation of the patient to see the provider, but sometimes the providers may need to enter information in here as well. So we're just going to cover all of it for different types of users. First off, we have the chief complaint. This is fairly self-explanatory. To add a chief complaint, you have to have a patient selected and a visit, and then you simply click on the add button. Now you get this pop-up box. You can simply start typing away, free text, whatever you'd like in here. And just type away, do whatever. Sometimes these are very brief, sometimes there might be lots of information that gets put in here. Free texting is one way to do it. Another way to save a little bit of time is this short list of symptoms, diagnoses, and patient requests. Now each of these lists are editable by your clinical application coordinator. So if you see things that you'd like to add or take away, you sure can. Just let them know. But the way that these function is that you simply double click and it will fill in and type as you go here. Notice the difference in the verbiage from what you get. Right there I was on the symptoms tab. There's symptoms button. If I switch over to the diagnoses button, and so the symptoms and diagnoses are pretty similar, and they also both have the verbiage of evaluation and management of as their lead-in text. If you do patient requests and do one, it adds in a new line if you've done something else. If you haven't gotten anything else in there, and you simply go straight to patient requests and double click, the verbiage it starts out with is patient requests, and then whatever you have here in the list. So two ways to do it: pretext or using these lists. You can add a few little things here, days, weeks, things like that, and then I hit a pinned button there and it added in what I had chosen here and the severity and the duration. Anyway, those are just some fancy ways to help you get in the chief complaint quickly. When you're done, you click OK, and it populates here, has the author, so that if more than one person puts on a chief complaint, it just adds another line with another author. If you forgot something and you are the author, you can simply double click and go back in there and add things in. The other advantage of this nice thing about this is now this is what we call structured data, and that means that it's saved in a field in the system, and now it can be pulled into a provider's note or a nursing note or any note with a data object now. So that it's a really handy component. Adverse reaction, we talked about it, separate presentation altogether because it can be a little bit more detailed, but essentially here's one place you can enter it. Remember to add one, we simply right click and say new adverse reaction and go from there with entering whatever we need to enter. I'll do a quick amoxicillin on this one. with some minimal information. Like we said in this separate presentation, you want to put as much information in there as you can, but just for demonstration purposes there, I did a quick one. Now in the lower left-hand corner here, we have some handy tabs here. That's the way this EHR is set up. We have reproductive history, infant feeding, personal health, and PHN, as in public health nurses. The reproductive history, as you can see, has lots of fields and lots of detail that you can put in for the patient's reproductive history. Infant feeding, we have a 14-year-old patient selected here, so we don't see the fields that can be filled in here. The system is smart in that way, in that it will only display an infant feeding for an infant, so we can no longer enter infant feeding on a 14-year-old. But it's pretty self-explanatory. If once you find it, you enter percentage of formula versus breast milk and how often, and has all sorts of details that you can put in there to track the infant feeding. Personal health. This one actually covers a lot of different things. It doesn't appear so necessarily at the first glance, but if you use this drop-down box here, it has functional status that we can add, and these are your activities of daily living. Nice place to document all of that. Refusals. This is one place to document a refusal, and so that could be a refusal of an immunization, or those are probably the most common, but maybe a certain lab test like the FOBT or something like that. This is one place you can document that you offered, but that the patient refused. And the last thing in here may or may not be used that much. Talk to your local site, but there is the ability to document pain contracts here. The pain contracts typically get documented through note titles and some special things that we can do with alerts and warnings, like we talked about under the postings button. So this may not be used very much at all, but it is there. PHNs, this is a spot to do the activity time and level of intervention, things that are very specific to public health nursing. So there's just a nice little spot to enter some good background information for the patient here. And our final square on our triage tab is the vitals entry and vitals display. So in order to enter vital sign, again, it's fairly straightforward. You simply type in, and then you can click or say update down on this button as you're going along. You've got your range and your units listed, so you know like that it's asking for the weight in pounds. This list is also configurable locally, so you may have things on here. You may see things on my list here that aren't on your list, or vice versa, and again, it's a finite list of things that you have to choose from, but there are differences, and your CAC can control what is listed here for vitals entry that you have available. As you can see, there are some other things here that you might not first think of as a vital sign, but can be added here. Things like asthma symptom-free days, things like that. Now, one thing that does come up, some vital signs have what we call qualifiers. So you want to note that you took this when the patient was lying down, or that you did the arm or the leg or things like that. And the way that you get to this level of detail is that you enter it and then right click and click on qualifiers. Another common thing that comes up is, say I needed to take a second blood pressure or a third blood pressure. But I don't see, wait, there's not another spot for me to enter that. I don't want to write over what I've already got. I want a new column. So to do that, you simply click on New Date and Time, and you can adjust the date and time if you forgot to put it in, but typically you're just saying I want a new one right now, and see it time stamped it just a few minutes after I had originally done this when I created the visit. Here now it's got a new column that I just created, and I can enter a second blood pressure. And again, oh, I forgot, I wanted to put some qualifiers in. I go back, right click, and let's say I did it in the other arm, and this time let's say I wanted to put a whole bunch of detail in there. There you go. So the vitals display side is just the display, then it's not the full entry thing. However, if you right click in here, enter vitals, it can take you right back there. So in case yours aren't right next to each other, that is a quick way to enter vitals, is also from the vitals display side, you can right click and enter new vitals. It also, if you click on a single vital, this one doesn't have vitals over the last time period here that we're showing. We can adjust the time period to see if there are more. Typically your patients that are coming in are going to have past values that you can see on this graph here. So it's going to be a nice tool. There's not an easy way to print out this graph, but because that's a question that comes out a lot, but it can be helpful for you to see how the weight or the blood pressure has been trending. It's also might be helpful to pull it up and show the patient how their blood pressure has been doing over the last year or something like that. So you just, again, to get to that, you just click on the vital sign, you get the graph automatically. You can adjust the time period by clicking over here, and some of these other check boxes here to add detail if you want. Okay, I believe that wraps it up for the triage tab for today.